I brought back that there's so much more to this life than we're seeing, and how connected they still are to us. Also that feeling of love. Each one of us is loved beyond our ability to even comprehend.
Exploring the human journey.
I'm Clare. I'm an evidential certified medium. I connect with angels, loved ones in spirit, life guides, and psychic information. The way that it works for me when I'm connecting with spirit, I often think of it as like a radio or a frequency. So these connections with our loved ones, our life guides, our psychic information, our angels, they're always playing. It's like the AM station. We're not listening to it right now, but if you tune in, you can find it. So as an evidential medium, what I do is I tune in to your loved ones in spirit, your life guides, your angels, the information that you need to know to help you live your best, most productive life and to accomplish your soul's goals and the evolution that you were wanting when you came here. Through this process of life, I've had 3 near-death experiences. The last near-death experience and the most powerful one happened right here in this kitchen because of that candle up here on my wall. I was up on a ladder changing the battery and I fell off. And at that point in time, I was ripped out of my body in a very quick way, not a painful way, standing with my 3 life guides, and they gave me the option. I could stay or I could go. And I knew if I chose to come back, that there was going to be much more expected from me. I was being asked to live all of the purposes of my life, not just one, which had been being a stay-at-home mom up until that point in time. One of the things I love about what I do is I get to help people awaken to the power of their soul and learn that none of us are living this life alone. We are connected. We have a spirit team, which consists of angels, life guides, and loved ones in spirit. It's really fulfilling for me when I can see someone connect to their loved one who's already transitioned and they realize that that connection and that communication with their loved one has not ended just because they are no longer connected to their earthly body. It's beautiful when someone realizes that we are souls playing in the magic of life and we came here to learn, evolve, and grow.
Hi and welcome. I'm so glad you joined us. Feeling loved and connected is part of the human journey. And if you've lost a loved one, I know it can be stressful. I've had that experience in my life recently, the death of a firstborn. And that let me realize I've had a feeling and an understanding that we're connected. There's something on the other side. And I've had people give me information. I've also had personal experiences. And I've come to just really appreciate people that are tapped in. It's mediumship. And I invited Michelle to come on the show and talk about mediumship. So Michelle, thanks for being here. I'm excited that you to be a guest today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be here with you.
It's going to be fun. So mediumship is important. It's a way to connect and to receive information across the veil, if you will. Give a little bit of context of how you receive information. How does it work for you? Where's your juice?
Yeah, it's really exciting because I do believe everyone has the ability to be a medium. You need a soul. Our soul is our antenna to the other side, whether you're connecting with God, Source, Jesus, your angels, your life guides, your loved ones. It's all going through your soul information. So every human can be their own medium. Now,
that's exciting because there's a lot of people that are like, there's no way I could ever do that. But you're saying people can have that ability.
I am. Yes, it's not a gift for a select few. It's a gift for everyone. Okay. But I will equate that to math. Some people will become physicists. Some people will only master 6th grade math. And then there's a basic level that we can all do, right? And so mediumship is like that in the sense that you can grow, you can hone it in, you can expand it, you can target it, you can direct it. What do you want to do with it?
So a lot of people have someone that has died and they've crossed the other side and they want, are they okay? Are they okay?
Yes.
I mean, I was given a religious narrative. You got one life, and if you mess it up, it's heaven or hell. And
Right.
Give a little context to what happens.
Right, absolutely. Well, let me start with the way I get my information is through feelings. So I will explain to people when I get information, it's like looking at someone that you know well and you know exactly what they're going to say before they say it. So spirit is giving me the feelings of the words. In my normal daily life, I don't feel the number 3 or the color blue or have any of these connections like that. But when I'm doing mediumship, I'll say, I feel the number 3. I feel like he had brown hair. I feel like he was 5'10". So I'll get information through feelings. Now, I do see things sometimes in my third eye. I will also hear things, but usually a word here or there. And sometimes I physically will feel how that person transitioned too. So that's kind of how I get my information.
So it's a feel. You get a lot of feel.
A lot of feeling.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, so if someone comes to you and says, I want to know if my loved one is okay. What's the next step in that process?
Yeah, so because mediumship is very broad, there are a couple ways to do it. You can either open up and see what's coming through, or you can target. So when I say target, what I mean is if someone comes to me and says, I really miss my son, here's his name, I can connect directly to him. Now, most of the time we can connect. There's 1 to 2 times a year where someone will come through to me wanting to connect with their loved one, and I have a hard time making that connection. But that's because on the other side, they have different abilities of communicating and connecting. Just like here on Earth, we have different gifts and different abilities. So once in a while, we will miss. But I always say it's not because their loved one's not okay and not right there. It's just that person and I have like a broken cell phone call where we're trying to communicate. And it's not quite the clarity that I'm looking for.
Now, I've heard like in hypnotherapy, people have said they've tried to contact someone and they're having a hard time getting through. And so sometimes they'll use dreams and they'll use kind of that in-between state, that waking, that kind of lucid space.
Absolutely. But I will tell you this, it's very uncommon for that to happen. Most mediums can get some information and some connection. It's never that I don't have any information for that person. It just might be like, I'm really connecting to your angel channel and you're wanting me to connect to your loved one. So that's part of it. But there's always something, because your loved ones in spirit, your angels, your life guides are all around each of us, wanting to always give us messages and encouragement to move forward.
Yeah, the context of angels being your guides, I do think that there's this spiritual guidance team that we have, and you even talked about that in your the feature video that we do, that you're surrounded, you're not alone. I love that concept.
Right.
So give some context for people that have had a loved one that has died of suicide. You know, they're worried, oh no, is my loved one okay? Are they trapped on an earth plane? Or did they go to hell?
Right.
Do they have to pay? Is there a punishment? Give some context for that.
Right. Yeah. But this is what I find, because I've worked with a lot of parents who've had children that have transitioned themselves, some purposefully and some accidentally. But what I find is they're all met with love, compassion. Their angels, their life guides, Jesus, whoever their connections are in this life, they are there to greet them, love them, and welcome them home. So nobody shows up on the other side to be punished.
Yeah.
That's hard for our human mind, because we want justice. We want to think that the bad guys go to jail and all of that. But when we look at the universe and we realize that God is love, God loves everyone. Yeah. And when I say that word God, I mean source, the universe, divine, whatever someone's idea of that higher power is, that's what I'm talking about. That is pure love.
God's a huge trigger for a lot of people, because the God they were told has a certain way of being.
Right.
They're like, I don't like that. I don't want to have that feeling. Other people are like, oh yeah, it's just normal. It's natural.
Right.
But yeah, I like the use of God as part of the source, part of the universe.
Yes.
And I guess I don't like the narrative of the sky Santa Claus that's always watching to see if you're naughty or nice, putting you on a list. I think, Anita Morjani has a great saying. I did an interview with her, and she said, God isn't a being, God is the state of being. And that really impacted me. It was like, oh, it's the space of consciousness. I think we're all connected into that same energetic force.
Absolutely, by your soul, which is why everyone can do their own mediumship and connect to their own spirit team and their own loved ones. But it takes a conscious decision and some action and maybe some effort, but it's possible for everyone.
Yeah. Now, I loved how you shared a little bit of your story with me. You said, oh yeah, this whole process started when I had not one, not two, but 3 near-death experiences.
Right.
And I shared with you that near-death experiences is so important to me. That was part of my journey in this lifetime of like, well, what happens after we die? And I got on Google and I searched it and found out there's a thing called a near-death experience, and people die and they cross to the other side. There's some communication, they bring back new information, and then there's a change. Sometimes there's an energetic change, sometimes there's a sensitivity change. So tell me about your process going through near-death experiences.
Right, I will. So my mediumship actually started that I noticed when I was 12. And I didn't have a word for mediumship. I just knew that when my grandpa transitioned, we were still connected. And I would tell my mom about it. My mom would say, well, I know that's what you think he would say if he was here. And I would say, well, I'm pretty sure he's still saying it. But so I learned really quickly, okay, this is just between me and grandpa. Like, I don't have to share this with anyone else. And that was my first realization, though, that there was still connection, because I was raised Catholic and I believed that, you know, if I lived a good life, I'd see him again someday. But then he transitioned, and guess what? He was still here. And yet he was there and he was okay.
What type of messages were you getting?
Yeah, he would just tell me things like, tell your mom not to feel so guilty. Tell your mom. So a lot of the messages were healing messages for my mom, but she wasn't in a place where she was ready to receive them.
Yeah, she's like, that's just, you're just making that up a show.
Exactly. So that's kind of where I started learning about mediumship, but I didn't know about mediumship as the term. I just knew we still had a connection. Then my grandmother transitioned a few years later. Same thing. Oh, grandma, messages. We have a connection. Mom, grandma's saying, and she was kind of like, well, I know that's what you think she would say. So I just realized, okay, this is just for me. Then with my first near-death experience, which happened in April of 2000, I was actually in the hospital visiting my sister-in-law that day. She had just had a baby, and I was standing in the hallway talking to her RN, who was my friend from high school.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it was just a homecoming.
You just, hey, hi, everybody, we're having fun.
Everybody's here. Life is good, right? So then what happened was I had a seizure, and I had never had one before. I have never had one since. But what I remember is laying on the ground and opening my eyes, and my head was in my grandma's lap. And my grandma was kneeling over me. She had transitioned a few years before this, and she looked like the youngest, healthiest version of herself that I could remember.
Wow.
And I was just, yes, a little blown away.
So you're standing up talking to friends, you have a seizure, you're down, but then you have the sensation of being held.
Yes, and I actually had no memory of the seizure. I was standing talking to a friend, and the next thing I knew, I was laying with my head in my grandma's lap.
Oh my God.
And as I looked at her, she had this beautiful, healthy glow around her. And I started looking around, and I saw that we were in this white room, but the walls were alive. Every cell or molecule in them was almost moving, radiating light and love. And so although they seemed solid, they were alive and moving. And I realized I was laying in this place. It just felt so good.
Wow.
I felt so loved. I had never felt that loved in my life. And I grew up feeling loved. It was a love beyond words. I felt complete. I felt whole. I felt peace.
Wow, that's great.
I didn't feel anything going on in my body. Even though I felt like I had a body, I didn't feel pain from having a seizure and hitting my head or anything like this. As I was laying there, I was looking up next to my grandma, and I see there's this 12-foot tall angel standing next to her.
Oh, wow.
And I was shocked. I believed in angels. I just had no idea they were that big. And as I looked at her, the first thing I thought was, oh my gosh, I can't wait to see her wings with feathers. And I went to look at her wings. I didn't find feathers. I found that they were wings of light.
Oh.
And they were like the aurora borealis, where they were iridescent and flowing and translucent and moving and spanning eternity.
Oh, wow.
They literally trailed off infinitely.
So there's like an energy center, and then there's some characteristics and features that you're able to distinguish them.
Yes, and she had a female energy, a female look. And in my mind, I was laying there and I thought, what is your name? And she answered me. She said her name was Madeline, and she was one of my guardian angels. Well, I was shocked because I didn't know anything about telepathic communication, and I didn't know she could hear what I was thinking.
Yeah.
But
That's awesome.
I
You're
know.
like,
I was going like, what just
get out
happened?
of my head. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Huh.
And so I really was just enjoying this space and laying there. I was not worried about anything. And I was feeling the love and the compassion. And the next thing I know, I hear them yelling, code, 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 because I had quit breathing.
Oh, my.
And I was already in the hospital. And I was back in my body. And my arm felt like it weighed 500 pounds. It was so dense and so heavy and a little bit shocking to go from this beautiful, light, airy, fluffy, unconditional love space back to wham, here you are, planet Earth. And so, because I was already in the hospital, they admitted me and they,
Excuse me, we have to go down to admissions before.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you have your insurance card on you? You're like,
yes,
what?
I know. And I didn't even actually know what had happened, but they told me I had had a seizure and everything that had happened. They never found out why, and I've never had another one. But what that did for me was, number one, it connected me to my grandma. It connected me to the fact that angels are real, that they know us, they hear us, they're connected to us. And there was this unconditional love and timelessness that I had never been able to connect to in my human form before that moment.
Oh, wow, what a beautiful experience then. So, yeah, I mean, so you're there, you're having these experiences. Was time, did it stop for you? Was it timeless?
Yeah, there was no time. There was no time. I was in no hurry. I have no idea what the time was. It couldn't have been long. I was already in the hospital when they were yelling code, right? But the few seconds that I was probably there in our human time, they felt very long. It was much longer than a few seconds, but yet there was no time.
Yeah. I love that timeless space that we get in that afterlife or life between lives space. And okay, so you have this feeling of somebody knows you, the angel's there, your grandmother's there. What did you bring back from that experience?
So I brought back that there's so much more to this life than we're seeing and how connected they still are to us. Also that feeling of love. I felt loved by both of my parents. I had never felt that loved in my life.
That's beautiful.
So the fact that each one of us is loved beyond our ability to even comprehend. And the other thing that was amazing was no one judged me. I was perfect just the way I was. Yeah, I hear that every time I hear a near-death experience. They're like, yeah, there's no judgment. No,
because so many of us are like, if you don't get it right, something's going to happen. You got to pay justice, whatever that narrative is. Like, no, that's not the way it is. You're playing a character. You wouldn't punish someone for playing a character in a play. They were playing the character.
Exactly.
So good. Okay, then what happens next?
Okay, so I was married at this point in time, but I didn't have kids. So then I just kind of shake that off and go back to living life. But I have this awareness, and I think it was a connection with the angelic realm. But I still get messages from my grandparents, and I'm not really sharing them with anyone. And I just go back to life.
Did you have any physical issues, or was it like you had an incident and then kind of back to normal?
Yeah, it was pretty much back to normal.
Okay. Yeah, whatever the period of time, but it wasn't like you had any lingering effects.
Right. Yeah. So then I went back to normal. But I did, but I didn't. I went back to normal, but I was now aware of how loved I was, which was beyond any human level of love.
So you're carrying this sense of like, oh, I'm really loved.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a great place.
It was a great place, and I'm really not being judged.
So you get a little bit of a lightness about you, I imagine. Yeah.
Absolutely. So then I came back into my daily life and just kind of continued on with what I was doing. My next near-death experience happened in May 2006. So by this point in time, that's about 6 years later. I have 3 kids. They are 5, 2.5, and an infant. So,
girl, you did not waste any time in those 6 years.
That's right. I was busy.
I have souls to work with. Yeah.
That's right. Yes. So they were all very little. And what happened was I had my son on April 1st, 2006. And after I had him, I had multiple complications. So I spent 4 out of the following 6 weeks in the hospital with IV antibiotics. Let's try this procedure. Let's try that. And it was just exhausting. I wanted to be home with my baby.
Yeah.
And physically I was exhausted and I would be running fever, so I just was not feeling good. Finally, about 6 weeks out, the doctor said, we need to do a D&C. And that's a procedure where they clear out your uterus, and it's supposed to be outpatient, 45 minutes. Very routine, I was told. Okay, let's get it done, right?
Simple, routine. I'd probably have someone you drive you home. Probably
Yeah.
good advice. Sure.
Right.
Okay.
And so, it sounded like a great quick fix. Like, why didn't we do this 4 weeks ago? Right?
Exactly. What were we thinking?
Right. So I will tell you, I scheduled it. The night before, I had this pit in my stomach, and I knew I should not do it.
Oh.
And yet, I was so tired of being in the hospital and feeling sick. I was like, no, we're getting this done. They told me it's easy and it's quick. So I always tell people, follow your gut feelings. The next morning I go in, I talk to the doctor and the anesthesiologist. Both of them remind me it's routine, pretty quick, pretty easy. You'll be out of here in 45 minutes. Okay. So I remember counting backwards for the anesthesiologist. And I'd had anesthesia before, and whenever I've had it, it's just a blank space. It's nothing. It's not dreaming. It's not good. It's bad. It's just blank.
Yep.
So under this procedure, I'm in the operating room. And I look over as I'm lying on the gurney, and this is after I'm under, and I see my beautiful white German Shepherd, who was about 100 pounds, who had transitioned a couple years before, walk into the operating room.
Oh my goodness.
She lays her head on my gurney and looks at me, and I was kind of laughing because she did that all the time on Earth. Every night she'd check on me in bed, right? Looks at me, and we're gone. We're gone. We've left this room, and we are on a phenomenal beach.
Oh.
And on this beach, every molecule, every drop of water is alive. It is radiating light and love. There are colors that I've never seen before. There are flowers. And once again, every flower, every leaf, everything is radiating light and love. And I want to say almost singing praises. And although I didn't hear music per se, there was the momentum or the energy of singing around all of this.
Oh, wow.
And so I look at my beautiful white shepherd. Her name's Tahoe. And we are on this beach. And she looks like she's about 2 years old. So she's healthy, she's young, she's vibrant, she's glowing. And I can tell again, she and I are communicating telepathically. And she's so happy that I'm there, and it's so good to see me. Here we are running on this beach. And as we're running, I noticed that the sand feels like clouds. It doesn't feel like hard beach sand.
Oh, wow.
I feel like I'm running on clouds. And I start to notice that we've been running a long time. But once again, there's no time. It just feels like I should be thirsty by now. I might be hot by now. I might be tired by now. None of those feelings. I felt refreshed. I wasn't thirsty. I wasn't tired. I wasn't hot. And here's the funny thing about that NDE. I often tell people, if you see me running, call 911. It's an emergency. Here I am in my near-death experience running along the beach.
Wow.
So I'm spending this time with her. And I become very much aware that it's just each breath and each step. It's truly an eternal moment. It felt like there was nothing before and nothing ahead. It was just very present. And I feel this unconditional love. I feel completeness. I feel whole. I feel so perfect. But not by my judgment of perfect. Like just by the universe. Like, you're perfect. Just the way that you are. And as I'm on this beach with my beautiful dog and we're running, all of a sudden I become aware that my son is calling to me. Now, he was at home with my mom at the time. He was 6 weeks old. But his energy, think of the connection between a mother and her child.
Yeah.
He knows I'm getting ready to leave. And he's calling to me, and I go to him. And I can tell he's scared. He knows this is going to be a long life without his mom.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
And I say to him, I know that you need me. I will find a way to stay. And I start praying. And I start saying, it's not my time. I need help. My kids still need me. I'm not ready. And as I start praying, I'm then immediately taken back to the operating room. And I see it light up with this beautiful golden white light. And I feel Jesus come in.
Oh, wow.
And as Jesus came in, it was almost just like your best friend walking into the room.
Beautiful.
He didn't come in above me or like pray to me or worship me. He was like, I'm here to help you. And
that's great. Thank you for that, because I've been given the narrative that Jesus was a solution to a problem, and I was the problem, that there was some original sin or something wrong with us humans. So I love the idea that Jesus is like, no, we're all in this together. I love that.
Yeah, and I absolutely felt that. And so what I found out in that near-death experience, one of the things was that our soul can be in more than one place at a time.
Beautiful.
When we're not connected to our body anymore, we can be in this heavenly realm. We can be right here on earth with our loved ones. We can be with 2 loved ones, 3 loved ones. We're not contained by time and space. So in this near-death experience, there was part of me that stayed on the beach running with my dog. There was a piece of me that went to my son to tell him I'd find a way to stay. And then there's something about me unifying in the operating room with Jesus as he created what I would call as a miracle. Here's what I found out though. It was my soul's ability to usher in the miracle.
Oh, wow.
And this is important because we all have the ability to usher in a miracle. And so the next thing I remember after seeing everything light up and feeling Jesus come in was waking up in post-op, and it had been a 45-minute procedure that turned into a 3.5-hour emergency surgery.
Wow, I bet they were freaking out too.
They had ruptured my uterus and
my
missed
God.
my aorta by less than a millimeter.
What?
So they couldn't even stitch it. They had to pack it. And then while the emergency laparoscopic surgeon was in there, the uterus got ruptured in a second place too. So
Would you like to name any of the medical practitioners in this?
we will protect the guilty in this
Oh,
interview.
oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I got to go back to the 6-week-old child.
Yes.
You know, I believe that souls pick the parents.
I do too.
And I believe you had this contract, and I believe he's like, whoa, hey, well, time out. This was not part of the deal. I came down here, I expected you to be a parent for me, and this is not part of the deal.
Exactly.
So I find that the lightness of that, you know, in
Right.
a comedic sense, that he's like, no, hey, get on the cell phone right
Exactly.
now. The soul phone. Mom, you can't do this to me. You know?
Right. I just got here. Where
Yeah.
are you going?
Yeah. So I think that's beautiful that you felt that connection, that communication.
Right. Absolutely. And I didn't have the words for this. So at this point in my life, I still do not have the words mediumship. I do not have the words near-death experience. I just know I'm having experiences. But I wasn't aware of these words or what we were calling these things.
Yeah, this is early 2000s. That's been in culture. Near-death experience was something that Raymond Moody coined in 1975. He wrote a book, Life After Life, I believe. And so it's been around, but people like me, I didn't find out about this till like 2015 when I started searching. So,
Right.
I mean, you hear these things, consciousness comes to you when it's your time. And so you're still like, well, I'm having these experiences, but I don't even know how to put nomenclature to it.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. So then what? Go ahead.
Yeah, well, and I was going to say one of the things that was a little challenging about these experiences is that my husband was raised Baptist, and he was not open to hearing about these experiences.
Oh, wow.
So,
okay. So you're not getting the support of like, yeah, you're right, honey. You're getting like, nah.
Right.
There's something wrong with you. Did you have the narrative that there was some sort of an evil devil entity trying to trick you or anything?
You know, that, or maybe I was brain damaged with anesthesia, or,
Oh
you know,
my
I mean,
God.
it was just.
So he went that hard way, like you're messed up in the head.
It was just that, yeah, it was very foreign to him. But I'll be honest, it was foreign to me too. These weren't stories that anyone had ever told me they had experienced things like this
But
before.
you've already got this connection where you've
Right.
communicated with grandparents. So you've already felt that connection. So you can at least have some context of it.
Right. Right. So, and so, you know, when I would try to talk about it, it was never heard, is what I would say.
Oh, it's
It
the
was just
worst.
never heard. And then when I would try to talk to my mom about it, she'd try to logically figure it out how that happened. You know,
You're going to logic it away, honey.
right.
You are
exactly.
crazy. I'm going to prove to you what really happened.
Right. Yeah. You had too much anesthesia. You had too many painkillers. I don't know what. But yeah. And so, and it wasn't that my mom didn't want to believe, but I think it was just hard for her. She was an RN, so she did like the scientific side of stuff.
Yep.
And it's hard to be scientific when we're talking spirit.
Yep. Oh man, that is so powerful. So many NDE experiences that I've read about have that narrative of like, I know it was real. In fact, it was more real there than it is here. But I come back and tell everybody, and they're like, no, you're crazy. It can't be. It's there is a release of DMT in your brain, or serotonin levels were high. You're just like, no, you don't get it. Because you feel you were there. You felt it viscerally.
And it's so vivid, and it is more real than this interview that we're doing.
Yeah. And you're not, no one's going to shake you that it didn't really happen.
Exactly.
That's so good. Continue on.
Okay, so then that was in 2006. So then what happens is now I'm a mom with 3 little kids. It took me about 4 months to recover and get back to 80% of where I was, because when they ruptured my uterus, the infection spread into my body. And so it was just rough. So I also, now I knew I had this experience, and I continued just being a stay-at-home mom.
Yeah, I mean, physically, you've got all that recovery time, plus the emotional things, the integration of the spiritual.
Babies.
When you're like, hey, I need to be taken care of. Yeah, and you've got kids, and then, you've got life. Ugh, wow,
right.
Wow.
So I kind of, although I knew it was real and it was very sacred to me, I didn't do anything with that. So I continued on. Being a stay-at-home mom, still having my connections with grandma and grandpa and the other side, but not really sharing that with anyone. Yeah. So then what happened was my third near-death experience. I know.
Yeah,
I always say,
plenty.
The universe will tap you on the shoulder to get your attention, or they'll do something, they'll make these messages stronger and stronger until you're ready to hear it sometimes.
So you needed to have, the first one was the tap, the second one was like shaking your attention. This one's spinning you upside down.
Yes, exactly. There's like, hello, are you in there? So for this one, I was actually out in my kitchen, and I have up about 12 feet off the ground these candles. Put the batteries in them. Every night they turn on and glow. My kids were older now, so my baby was 5 years old. So I had a 5-year-old, an 8-year-old, and a 10-year-old. My younger 2 were home with me, and my oldest was at an after-school program. And so I told my younger 2, as soon as I put this candle back up, we're going to go get your sister. And they said, okay. So November 1st, 2011. That's a lot of ones in that date, right?
1.
Yeah, and I was actually, my daughter was sitting at the table. We had just gotten like the Toys R Us book or whatever, and she was starting to look through it, right, for her Christmas list, because it was the day after Halloween. So I climb up this ladder, and I go, I'm going to put the candle up, and I feel the ladder start to shift. And all I could think is, this is going to hurt. That's all I could think, like, oh, this is going to hurt. And in that moment, I was literally ripped out of my body.
What?
Not in a painful way, but in a fast way. It was just like somebody grabbed me and yanked me out, like bungee cord fast, right?
Oh, wow.
And I was turned around, and I was facing my body and the ladder suspended in the air.
Whoa. So and then you're seeing yourself,
yes.
And you're like, you're outside yourself looking at you.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was standing with these 3 people that I didn't know from this lifetime, but they felt like family. They felt like people who had known me my whole life. One was a Hawaiian man, one was an Asian man, and one was an Egyptian woman.
Wow.
And I was standing in this space where there once again was no time. Unconditional love, support, completeness. And as I was standing there, they looked at me and they said, well, what would you like to do? Do you want to stay or do you want to go?
Oh my God.
I know. And I'm looking at my body in the ladder and I'm thinking, well, this is crazy. I have forever to decide. I literally had forever to decide. But in my mind, I was trying to understand how that worked because I was pretty sure my body was going to hit the ground in about a second or less.
Yeah.
And yet they were not rushing me. I truly had forever to decide.
Wow. The movie Inception comes to mind where the cars fall and it's just incrementally slow and you just have all this space and time to make a decision. That's incredible.
Yes, absolutely. And so I was actually just trying to process that. I wasn't trying to decide yet. I was just like, how does this work that my body's going to hit the ground, but nobody's like, hurry up. What do you want to do? Are you staying? Are you going?
Wow.
It was just like, what do you want to do?
So it's your choice then.
I got a choice.
Wow.
And as I was standing there and I was looking at my body and the ladder suspended in the air, I saw this amazing angel come in. Not the same angel from my first near-death experience, a different one. And this one was dressed in gold and a deep red. Beautiful. And as I saw him come in, I knew that he was there to either immediately take me home or to make things work out so that I could stay.
Whoa. I have never heard of that scenario before. He's like, I'm the negotiator.
Yeah.
I'm gonna fix
He's the
it.
facilitator.
The facilitator, yeah. I'm the fixer. I come in, I fix it.
Yeah.
Okay, keep going.
Right? And but guess what I learned there?
What?
Your angels work for you.
Oh, okay.
They want to work for you. They want to help you. They signed up on our team. What do you want to do?
Wow, that is really good. There's even some, back in church days, there's some Bible verse that says, send forth the angels and, call them out to go and help you on your journey. So that's part of that narrative I've had.
Yes, it's truth. So as I was standing there with these beautiful 3 people and watching my body in the ladder suspended in the air and seeing this amazing angel come in, my attention was drawn to my kids. And the moment I saw my kids, I knew I had to stay.
Oh, of course.
And in that moment, it wasn't a verbal decision. I never said, I'll stay, choose me, I'm going to stay. It was once again telepathic. There was an acknowledgement that I would stay. And as I decided to stay, I was downloaded with a bunch of information from Source, the universe, God, all of it. And some of that I do not believe I still remember to this day because a lot of it gets revealed to me over time.
Oh, it's like a progressive unfolding.
Some of it I knew immediately, and then other things show up. Like it's almost like a flashback where I'm like, oh, they told me that would happen. Oh. So basically what they said is, okay, Michelle, you can stay, but we expect more out of you. It's great that you're a stay-at-home mom.
God.
It's part of your purpose. It's not your whole purpose. You've got to go back and you've got to practice your mediumship. And you've got to help people in the way that only your soul can. So not that there aren't a million great mediums, but we all have our own approach, our own information, our own connection. And I was being asked to come back and continue living the other parts of my life purpose.
Oh, wow. That is fascinating. So you've got to live up to your calling in essence.
Right.
You can't, you're coasting along. There's more for you to do. Your soul journey was such that you had something more to contribute and they're trying to get your attention.
Absolutely. It was a wake-up call.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so what happens is obviously I agree and I fall off the ladder. And so on the way down, I hit the back of my head on the corner of the granite island in my kitchen. And I have a 5.5-inch skull fracture that goes up. I have a brain bleed here. I lose my taste, my smell, my hearing, my equilibrium. Not all of my hearing, but a chunk of it. I broke my arm. That was the easy part to heal from. And I hit the floor. And so at that point in time, I have a huge recovery ahead of me. And it was very challenging because I couldn't even lift my head up 3 inches because my equilibrium had been knocked out from the fall. And I remember I was in and out while we were waiting for the ambulance to come. And I remember not being able to understand because my brain had the injury, why I couldn't get up, why I couldn't stand up. But my navigation system was out.
That is a traumatic brain injury. Wow.
So then I go to the hospital and I'm there for, I think, about 10 days. And they did different therapies, vestibular therapy and some different things to help me be able to sit up again and to walk and things like that. Now,
were you rethinking, maybe I shouldn't have come back?
Yeah, right? I'm like, oh, they didn't tell me about this hard work, right?
Yeah, they said it'd be, I'd come back and I'd have these things, but this is hard.
Yeah, it was hard. And so it was funny because my kids were younger. So about 6 weeks later, when the cast came off my arm, everyone was like, oh, Mom's good. She's healed. Her cast came off. Because they're just looking at the outside, and the outside looked pretty normal.
Go make some mac and cheese for me, Mom.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. But what I found out was when I had lost my taste and smell, I did not know this could happen, but there's something called phantom taste and smell.
Oh, wow.
And so it's similar to phantom pain. So we hear about people who have lost a limb and they have pain in it still. For me, the phantom taste and smell was like rotting, burning dead bodies.
Oh, no.
It was
That's not what you want.
horrible. And so it would get triggered sometimes by other things. Like if I walked by a coffee shop or if we went into a restaurant and I smelled the food, and I would literally have to go outside and vomit because my body was interpreting the scent as the smell and taste of rotting, dead bodies.
Oh my God, that is not what you would want.
No.
You want roses and chocolate
Yes,
and red
exactly.
wine.
Right. Thank you. Yeah. So it was really challenging. So there were many things that I was working through. Then came January of 2012, so a couple months later. And my son, Josh, who was 5 at the time, had tried to call 911, but his call hadn't gone through. And we thought he probably got scared. He accidentally dialed 991. We didn't know. But he started to feel very depressed. And he would say, Mom, I didn't need to be there. I did nothing to help you. Sophie could have done this without me. And I would say, honey, you opened the door for the policeman. He would talk to my mom, my mother-in-law, and we were all trying to make him feel like he had helped and he had supported me through that. So the end of January, my grandfather, who passed away when I was 12, actually came through and manifested to me in the kitchen, like in form. And as a medium, I don't usually see people in form.
Yeah, I mean, you physically saw a form.
Yes. And as I saw him, the first thing I said was, it's been so long since I've seen you. And he looked at me and he said, I knew it would seem like that to you.
Oh, because he's in the time where there's no time.
Right.
Wow.
And because he's with me every day.
Oh, sure.
Just because I'm not seeing him doesn't mean he's not seeing me.
Oh, that's really cool.
Right. And so we proceeded to talk, and he talked about my accident and my head injury. And he talked about my son. They never walked this earth at the same time.
Oh.
They didn't. They never met. My son was 5. My grandpa died when I was 12. I was 38 now. And he said to me, you need to get the 911 recording. There's something on there you should know. And then our visit was over. And I was just thinking, I didn't even know I could get that recording.
Oh, wow. So now you're getting information about something you don't even know. You can't even know about this.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
So I go down and I order it. It takes a couple weeks to come in. And I get it and I play it. And I hear them say, 911, what's your emergency? And in his little broken voice, my son Josh says, Sophie, what do I say? And he laid the phone down. So he had called immediately when the trauma happened, and he had forgotten because there was so much trauma in the room.
And Sophie is the sister then.
Sophie's his older sister. And so for the next minute and a half, you can hear 911 saying, can you hear us? What's your emergency? What's going on? And he says, I'll go push the panic on the house alarm. And she says, hold on, let me try to call 911. She's 8. She hangs up the phone, dials 911. The second recording is her call going through, where they actually connect her with the firemen who are on the way.
Wow. Wow. So how did he feel after that?
Yeah, so he came home from kindergarten and I said, Josh, your call went through. You helped me. Help was on its way. It was like lifting a 10,000-pound weight off his shoulders, and you could see his feeling of self-worth and competence literally fled back in.
And so you had that connection from materializing your grandfather, which gives you information, and then you were able to create some healing in your family dynamic there with your kids.
That was my biggest visit after my head injury, my first one, and also for me personally, my most life-changing one. It couldn't have affected someone that I love more.
Wow. Wow. Okay, so all of the near-death experiences you've had, each one incrementally propels you forward in your understanding, your consciousness, whether it's love or like I can be in multiple places, I'm a spiritual being. And then you get into the space where you're able to get information. What happens next? How do you get into helping people? Yeah,
so after that, I would have, after this visit with my grandfather, other people's loved ones would start showing up. I had a friend whose husband had transitioned by suicide contact me and give me a message for her. So I started giving this out.
Was it something that she needed to know?
It was something she needed to know.
That's a pretty
he said to her,
savage experience.
It was. It was very challenging for her because she's actually the one who found him, and so she was dealing with a lot. And I do remember part of the message was, remember the pearls. And I thought about that. I didn't know exactly what that meant, but we have pearls in life. There are those moments we can choose to focus on, right? And so I said to her, I said, he's telling me to tell you, remember the pearls. And it was also very significant for her because on her first Mother's Day, she also it was her birthday, and he gave her pearls.
Oh.
And she said that was a time in our life where we were filled with so much hope and joy and beauty. And so to remember the pearls for her had multiple meanings, but I think that's what all of our loved ones want for us, to remember the pearls that we shared with them.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, so I would get these messages, and then I'd want to talk to people about it, but I was also very scared about being judged because I didn't have a lot of support for that in my house.
Oh.
And I didn't, my friends, they were worried about potty training and first grade math and things like that. And I was thinking, how do I tell them I'm communicating with dead people, with the other side, right?
I see dead people, and like I see potty training.
Yeah, I see first grade math, and and so I did what any good mom would do. I got a counselor. I went to counseling because I thought I could fix this.
Oh, wow.
I knew she would help me navigate it, but it turned out to be a very different navigation than I was expecting because, of course, Spirit led me to the right counselor who said, Michelle, what a gift. Let's get you a mentor. You can change lives. You can help people.
So most people would get a counselor to say, you need Thorazine. You need to, there's something that numbs you out, and you need to go to a clinic. You need to have some medication.
Right.
Yeah. And you had somebody that supported you then.
Yes. Yeah. And actually, not just supported me, but told me what a gift it was, how amazing it was, how I could help others, how this was part of my soul's plan.
Yeah. Beautiful. I love that. So you were given some support, and then you're giving like a catalyst to move you forward.
Exactly. And so then I started getting mentors, and so I mentored for about 5 years, and then what happened was I thought, okay, I think I'm ready. So I took a year to do readings for anyone and everyone that I could find for free, just to make sure that my information was as accurate
you're
as
practicing, you're lifting weights and seeing how it works.
Working it out. And then after that, I went into working professionally as a medium.
Now, is there anyone you want to give credit to for mentorship?
Yes, I mean Jamie Clark.
Jamie Clark!
Yes!
We love Jamie Clark. High five.
Yes, we love Jamie Clark. He's a phenomenal mentor. And
Jamie, that's a shameless plug for you, pal.
There you go. But you deserve it.
Keep going though. So.
Yes. So he helped mentor me. I had other mentors along the way. He was my main mentor. But what I found out was I didn't know. I felt like this was happening to me. I didn't know how to do it on demand. I didn't realize that I could go out and access the information and the connection when I wanted.
Oh, because a lot of people would be like, hey, I get this feeling on these times. I can't control it. I'm driving my car and I have to stop it. And you're like, okay, maybe there's a way that I can access the information instead of having it to come to me.
Right.
Oh, okay, cool.
Right.
What's that process like?
Yeah, so that process for me, well, I have a lot of like rules and regulations in place with Spirit. So I do not get woken up in the middle of the night by people's loved ones.
Wait a minute. You have the rules. You put the rules and regulations. Oh, okay.
Exactly.
I thought you meant like, Spirit has regulations for me. No. You have regulations.
Right.
Okay, keep going.
If you want to work for me and you want me to work for you, we've got to have a good contract here. I'm going to sleep through the night.
Don't even think about waking me up at 2 in the morning.
My sleep is important.
Love.
I will perform better for you if I have a good night's sleep, right? Other rules, when people come in and I give them readings, their loved ones leave with them. I don't have a haunted house. Your loved ones aren't here before you come. They don't stay after you leave. They go with you.
Oh, I love that.
Yes. And they don't want to be with me. They want to be with their people anyway. They just show up to give the information that I need to share. So, yes, there are different parameters or rules that I have. And so I started working with Spirit. I started my own mantras about what I would say about when I wanted to connect. So I think of this as a radio. It's a frequency that's always playing. Just because we're not listening to the AM or FM station right now doesn't mean it's not playing. We just have to tune in. I see myself as a radio. Actually, every human, every soul, every dog, everything with a soul is a radio. And what we can do then
Except for cats, because we know cats don't have souls.
Oh, come on now.
Have you seen cats? No, I tease. Dogs are nice and kind. Cats are like, I don't care.
I know.
Good, I'd be better off without you. That's a cat.
That's right. They're very independent. We could learn a lot from a cat.
I tease.
Yes, exactly. So what I realized is I am the radio, I am the receiver, I am the tuner. And so what I can do then is that I can dial in. So we can, if you say, hey, I got to talk to my angels. All right, we're going to channel 111. Hey, I got to talk to mom. Okay, channel 103. We can guide and direct it. Or if somebody comes to me and they don't have a specific direction, I just open up and I'm like, okay, let's see what the universe wants me to share with them. And then most likely one of their loved ones will come in to help guide the session. But there's always information playing. It's just about tuning into it.
Now, one thing I love is synchronicities. I mean, I'll get a lot of synchronicities as I travel. If I'm traveling between Phoenix and LA, I'll see license plates, and I don't look at license plate, but I'm like, and there's a 444, or there's a 222, or there's a 555, and then I'll get out my iPhone and go angel meaning of 555, and I'm like, not that I'm texting and driving, but I'm trying to, but I want to know what this is, and it'll say 555 is a number of change. Something's changing, and I'm like, well, what's gonna change? I need to know more information. Right. So, but I do like the synchronicity. So, given that, tell people about how the angel guidance team works with, like, whether it's numbers, the 111 numbers.
Right.
Tell a little bit about how that works.
So this is what I have found with our angels. One of the biggest questions people ask me, what is my guardian angel's name?
Oh.
And guess what? I don't always get names. And sometimes the names are tones. And sometimes they're not things that we can even understand.
Tones?
Yeah,
like you're going, his name is E.
Yes, exactly. Call him this. Right. And so with that being said, what I have found is your angel doesn't care what you call it. Think about like the puppy you bring home who's like, I don't care if you name me Fred or Jack or whatever. Just give me a symbol, a name, a direction, and I'm there.
I love that.
Yeah. So angel signs, yes, numbers, feathers. I mean, there are so many. My angels very often talk to me in emojis.
Oh, what? Tell me more.
Yeah. So if I'll be like, hey, should I do this or do that? They'll be like, thumbs up, thumbs down. They'll give me like happy face. I mean, it's
just don't get the poop emoji and you're like,
exactly,
no!
Exactly. I'd be like, that is a definite no if I get that one. But so they don't want to make it complicated to communicate with us. And they'll do whatever it is that you're receptive to. Is it the song on the radio? Is it the visual of an emoji? Is it literally maybe the vapor trail of planes with a big X in the sky? That's like, not a good idea. They will communicate with us in any way that we are willing to. I love the song,
the lyric, the something. You'll be driving, or maybe you're in a restaurant with someone, and you're having a conversation, and then you hear the lyric, and the lyric is something that's pertinent to the conversation. You're like,
exactly.
Is that a message?
Yes,
okay.
It is. Yes, it is.
Yeah,
so they
fun.
will send us every message. Numbers are very much a universal message from angels. So you're right. When you Google what is 111, 222, all of that, that's a very common way for them to connect with us.
Yeah, I remember seeing the 1111 in the morning and then in the nighttime, and I was like, "What's 1111?" And it was like, "You're having a spiritual awakening," and I was like, "I am. It's true."
How do the numbers know?
Yeah. And then it would be a comical thing. It was like, I wonder what time it is. Of course, it's 11:11.
Right.
It got to be. I'm tired. I should be in bed. I'm watching TV. I should go to bed. What time is it? 11:11. It's just crazy.
Yeah. So the angel communication is always there for us. I really think of them as our helpers. Okay, so I feel like they play a different role than a life guide does. I do believe our angels, our life guides, are assigned to us before we come to earth and choose this body and this path and this playground.
Yeah.
So I would say that. I think with our angels, they are always here to guide us, love us, support us, but they play more of the helper role. They are very much the facilitator of miracles. They are the ones that move your head a half an inch to survive the fall.
Wow.
Yeah, because that's how much I survived by half an inch.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
I missed my brainstem by half an inch, right? And in my first near-death experience, it was a millimeter.
Oh my.
It was literally a millimeter from my aorta.
Man, you are just living on the edge.
Right there.
Right there.
That's right. I need a little more space.
Oh my goodness. So in this consciousness, I think that I've moved forward in the idea that whatever this consciousness thing is, we're all a part. It's just one thing thinking itself. Now, I don't know if it's that consciousness is bored or consciousness is so happy that it just wants to play these games. I don't know what it is, but it somehow fractals itself out into infinite billions of pieces. And I get to be a character, you get to be a character. And somewhere along the way, we have these different experiences, and it's likened into a video game, and we're playing a character, and you come into this game with some settings that are a little off, where you're like, oh, a core wound. When you were a kid, you're not going to feel loved, or you're not going to feel like you could ever be good enough, or something happened, and then you're given some physicality, got a vessel that you've chosen to live in, and maybe there's some sort of a disability you have to deal with, or maybe there's some sort of family dynamic so there's all these little things, and somehow we're on this cosmic journey where we have to overcome these little tiny things, and then somehow it contributes in the entire soul journey of this entire cosmic existence that you're on.
Right.
Give some context from what you've learned and experienced through mediumship. What's the whole thing about? What's the what, I don't know, purpose or whatever.
Right.
But kind of, what's some of the whys that you've encountered?
Right. So one of the big things is it's about the experience, because that's where the growth and evolving happens, right? So I know you said, like, is consciousness bored? Why is it doing all of that? To experience it. Why do you go jump in a cold pool? Why do you go take a hot shower? I mean, yes, to get clean, but you want to experience life. Consciousness is experiencing life through us.
I had an ayahuasca ceremony one time, and ayahuasca said to me, so I kind of asked that, well, what's the point of this whole thing? When I was going through a hardship, I was going through relationship things, and I go, what's the point of that? And she says, it's because you want to experience it. So I kind of forgot about that. Thank you for reminding me.
Yes.
And I go, well, what's the point of that? She goes, in ayahuasca ceremony, she says to me, David, do you like sex? And I go, well, yeah, of course I do. She goes, why do you want to do it? I go, because it feels good. It's fun. And she goes, that's why we want to come here and have these experiences, because ultimately it's fun. It feels good to us. Even the hard ones are still something we want to have as an experience. So I had forgotten about that. Thanks for reminding me.
Right. And we can expand on that too, because people will often talk about, we've got to get back to the oneness. We've got to get back to the oneness. Guess what? We came from the oneness. We will return to the oneness. Don't devalue your individual human experience.
Yes.
There's love here. There's learning here. There's growth here. Yeah. And so, I would love for the whole world to feel like one, but not the kind of one that we came from where we're going back to, because we came here to feel individual too.
Yes,
and experience it as an individual.
Yeah. In the old narrative I lived in, it was to get out of here and get into heaven, because then everything would be perfect. And then I realized, wait a minute, the action's here. We came from heaven. This is where the action is.
Exactly.
What do you want to experience, explore, and expand in this lifetime? I love that narrative.
Right. And you know what I love to tell my clients? That our souls came here to live and love and grow and play in the magic of life.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah. That's what ayahuasca talks to me about. It's all play. I go, what do you mean it's play? It's hard. She goes, it's all part of the journey.
Well, there is somewhat of an illusion that happens here, right? The illusion that our loved ones die. They don't die. There's life and life. Yeah. They're not still connected to their body, but they're very much still alive.
I love the sentiment. I can't be dead. I'm still here.
Exactly.
I've heard people share that too.
Yeah, and so there's life and life. And even, let's be honest, if this whole earth, got swallowed by the sun today, none of us would cease to exist. We would just exist in a different dimension.
Love that. My friend and yours, Jamie Clark, likes to say, you only have one lifetime. It's just all the different characters that you're playing along the way. I love that idea.
Yeah, kind of like the different outfit that you wear every day.
I love that, yeah. So what are some other things then, when people come into you and they're wondering about, like, pets? You had the experience of seeing your pet. Tell me about that process.
Yeah, well, I love that. So I can connect with pets and with babies. And people are like, well, how do you do that? They couldn't talk. Well, that's true, but we have telepathic communication and we communicate through feelings. And so even though it was maybe an infant that never walked on this earth, maybe they didn't even make it to delivery, their soul is still old. Their soul can still communicate. So we have soul to soul communication. It doesn't matter what type of body you are in. And even with mediumship, we have mediums and that can communicate with people with autism that are nonverbal, with people that are in comas, because it's just soul to soul communication. It doesn't matter if they're still anchored to their body.
That's awesome. My recent life has been, I've had a transition, and my firstborn, he's passed, and I still have had some encounters where I feel his presence. I do feel like he's still like on a team that's helping. I don't think he needed to go. I think he could have stayed here. I think he had an overdose that was probably like, I'll push the limits, and it was like, oh, maybe I did push it too hard. I don't think his body was really able to overcome what had already happened. When we found him, the oxygen had stopped at the brain. I did CPR on him. I was able to bring him back. He was able to be an organ donor. I think that was a beautiful space for me, because I know that his life had some help for some other people. He became at his funeral, I said, he dressed up like a superhero when he was a little boy, and at the end of his life, he became a superhero to two families because they had the gift of life from donating organs. So, so I know that there's a lot of people that have had a hardship. I don't walk around in a like, oh, I'm never going to see him again. I don't walk around like that, because I really do feel that as a spiritual being, I'm going to see him again. And in other lifetimes, I'm sure we've had some connections. I think maybe he was a high advanced master teacher in some other lifetime, and this time around we got to reverse roles, where I was here to help him with responsibility. He was here to help me let go of needing to control everything. So I do view him as having been a teacher. But I feel like I want to make sure I give honor to those people that have lost a loved one. Sometimes they're like, well, that's neat that you got to communicate with someone, but I don't. And they get into this space. I feel like I've had some communication with my son, but they're like, I don't, they don't communicate with me. What words of hope do you have for someone that feels isolated? They feel resentment that a loved one left them. I mean, that's very common. Like, my husband died and I hate him because he left me. What do you have for that person that's walking through that pain?
Right, absolutely. Number one, our loved ones never leave us. They might not be connected to our body, but I was just in a group reading yesterday in Scottsdale with two parents who have sons that had transitioned. And they said, tell me they're not going to leave me again. They're not going to leave you again. They haven't left us. They're not connected to their body, but they're still invested in you. They're still communicating to you, and you're still in a relationship with them. So now you're learning from your son, and he is still learning from you. So we're not alone. It's an illusion. They're still here. The other thing is sometimes people's grief kind of builds a wall, so it's not as easy for them to feel or see the signs or feel the connection with their loved one. But as they move through it, they might find that they're seeing it more often. Also, sometimes people need to connect with a medium to say, look, these are the signs. They're like, well, I didn't know that when my toilet flushes by itself at 1 a.m. every Thursday, that's my son, or whatever this is. So sometimes the signs are obvious, but we're talking ourselves out of it. But the connection that happens between, like you, a father and a son, it's quantum entanglement. It can't be broken by time, by space, by a human death, which is just a transition. It's truly an eternal connection.
Yeah, I love the analogy that it's, the earth is a stage and we're all characters. And if you move into that, it would be like us running into a play, a theater, and going, you guys are just playing characters. It's not real. And they're like, shh, yeah, we know. And I like to feel like when people get on the other side, that's the way they feel. And then you even up-leveled that. You said you felt that was like we were running into like a third grade play.
Yes.
Give that, show that.
Yeah, the idea that you run in and yell at your third grader, "You're not Robin Hood. Quit pretending you are."
It's so good. And then,
Right.
Mom, I'm playing a character.
Yeah, Mom, sit down. I want to be Robin Hood right
This
now.
is embarrassing. Yeah, and so I'm here playing the character of David, and whatever the things that I go through, and David's sad. Oh, David's excited. Or,
Right.
And I do think that's part of the human experience, that we have to have that. And if the veil is broken, everybody's talking about, I'm going to awaken spiritually. I'm like, maybe some people need to stay asleep.
Right.
Let them stay there. They're playing their character. That's right. You got to get a good job so you can make a lot of money and have a good retirement.
Yes.
You go, pal.
And I love that you brought that up, because it was not until my third near-death experience when I came back and I started looking around and seeing, my sister's dating like the same guy in a different body, same issues. And I would always be like, why is she doing that? And I realized, you know what? What does her soul want to learn? So now I don't look at anyone and see them like they're broken or they're not on the right thought pattern or they're not doing the right thing. Everyone's perfect exactly where they are. What is their soul's plan? What is their soul's lesson? I'm not here to judge the course you came to take.
Wow, powerful. Yeah, I've loved the idea that there's nothing you can do to mess up this lifetime.
Exactly.
You're simply having an experience. You do something, you're like, I learned from that experience. I don't want to have that again. And you have another one, you're like, I enjoyed that. I definitely see I want to direct my energy that way. Mm-hmm. Experiencing and exploring and expanding.
Right.
Yeah. So if people want to get a hold of you and they want to experience you, do you do remote work? Do you do in person? Talk about the work you do.
I do. So about now, 2/3 of my readings are done via Zoom. I still see people in person too. Everyone always says, well, how does that work if I'm not there? Well, basically how that works, your loved one is with me and with you and giving me the information. It's very much the same as it would be if someone comes in person. Yeah. Your loved ones come through, they show up, they give me the information, I share that with you. So it doesn't matter if it's over the phone or on the other side of the world or if you're right here in my office. We're always able to connect to your loved ones in spirit, your angels, your life guides. At the end of the day, they're all on your team wanting the best for you, wanting you to achieve your life goals, your plans, the things that you came here for. And so they'll take every opportunity they can to speak into your life and to guide you.
That's great. And is there anything specific, any wisdom you want to share to people as we're closing out? Is there a message? Is there something you didn't get to share yet? Is there still something that you want to let people know?
I would just say this. A lot of times people ask me about free will. Do we have free will or are we predestined?
Great question.
Right? It's an amazing question. And it's interesting because I think it's when I asked the angels, they said yes, yes, and then other stuff. So there are some things in life that we are predestined for, that we decide on a soul level before we come in. I want to do this. This will happen. It's a check the box, going to happen, right? There are other times in life where we have free will in situations, right? I could get up right now and walk out of the room. I could also stay here and sit here, right? So I do have free will. What I find with people is the biggest place that we can play with our free will is in our mind and the way we decide to perceive things and think about it. So free will isn't always a physical action. It's actually more a mental and emotional action. So you could take a guy who's chained to a cell wall in wherever, Siberia, but in his mind every day he's running the beach, he's climbing the mountains, he's feeling freedom. You can also take a human who has complete freedom in the United States, is walking around doing whatever they want, and they feel chained to the wall. The free will is truly in our perception of it, which changes everything, because when you realize your loved one's alive, they're not dead, they're still living, they're still experiencing life on that side of the veil and through us vicariously, we realize that there's only life in life. And the power is in the free will of our perception and how we want to interpret this world and the people in it and the experiences around us.
Beautiful. I love that. Before we close, is there any messages that have come through, whether it was for me or for someone else, that you want to impart or share?
Yeah, absolutely. Your son is with you all the time. I will tell you this. He's very excited about your journey. and where you're headed. And he's making me feel like he's a mover and a shaker. So he's putting pieces together for you in your future that you don't even know are there yet. But I want to tell you, I feel him lining them up. So they're either like blocks or Legos. I don't know if he was a Lego kid or not, but I want to say he's stacking it, he's lining it up, he's building it. Then he's also telling me to tell you, your roadmap is going to look different than you expect sometimes. But he said, I want to get the words right because I get my information through feelings. He says, don't take a change of direction as a change in plan. So what that would mean, like the destination is still there, but you might go this way to get it instead of this way. But there's a lot that is solid and in your future. It has a lot to do with this work and with film production and all of this. You might go the roundabout way someday, but you're still on the way there. Also too, do you feel him like literally almost tapping your shoulder? It could be energetically, but what I feel is he's always like, Dad, I'm right here. I'm right here. I'm right here.
I'll have to look into that.
So it might feel like a physical touch on you, but it also would just be like an emotional touch.
Okay. Beautiful.
Lots of music for you from him too. He's showing me music.
Oh, wow. Beautiful.
So be aware of the songs that come on the radio. Playlists that you may have built that don't have a song in them and it just shows up. Things like that.
Oh, that's good. I like that.
Yeah, he's got this little bit of a kind of like a prankster energy to him. So he does like to give you the unusual signs or the things that'll get your attention more.
Oh, that's good. I like that.
Yeah, he wants to keep you on your toes.
Yeah.
He says, don't think I'm not living.
Oh, that's good. Thank you for that.
Yeah, he's living.
Yeah, I like to envision him free from the shackles of his earthly addictions and where he just has this freedom about him. I like to envision him dancing and being free.
Absolutely. And I want to say this too, probably most likely helping other people that are going through the same thing he had. Helping them to progress, to maybe not transition the way he did, or giving them, listen, sometimes there's a 6-month period in someone's life where things change drastically, but it could be the difference of how the family around them processes things, right? So sometimes somebody just getting an extra 4 months here, 4 days here, will be the difference in the family when they transition. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure.
And so what I would also say with your son is I want to say he's buying time for people.
Oh, wow. Yeah, he was always a generous person. He would be a giver. In the addiction community, he saved many lives. He was born at 9:11 p.m. on December 22nd. So I used to say that he was the 911 for, the people in his community. We had a really wonderful relationship the last couple of years of his life. Even though he was on and off dealing with his addiction,
right.
We were very transparent and loving with him, his mother and I with him, and we shared a lot. So yeah, that's good. Thank you.
Yeah, he's still doing what he's always done, helping people.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you very much. If there's one thing you want to leave people with is like the last thing, if there's nothing they heard the whole episode, which has been wonderful, if there's one thing you want to make sure people know, what would that one thing be for you? That
no one's living this life alone. We are surrounded with our loved ones, our angels, and our life guides, and none of us are alone.
Awesome. It's been a wonderful journey. Namaste, my friend.
Thank you. Namaste.
Thanks for joining us here on Exploring the Human Journey. You can find us as a video on YouTube or listen to us as a podcast. For more information, go to the website at exploringthehumanjourney.com.